Hello, everyone. I wanted to talk to you today about upgrading from World to EnterpriseOne in a technical perspective. I am Jeff Copper. I'm one of the partners and EVP of the JD Edwards practice for C&A Technology. Today, we'll take a glimpse and walk through the process of some of the key success factors and criteria for a World to EnterpriseOne migration. We'll look at the approach and methodologies and some of C&A Technology's complementary services. I'm going to start with upgrade methodology and approach, and first some key questions to help you migrate through the process of upgrading or migrating from World to EnterpriseOne. The first question would be, what type of upgrade do you want to perform? And there's really three different types of upgrades. There's a technical upgrade, which we often call lift and shift, where I'm just taking the mods that I have and I'm moving those forwards. I'm not really trying to retire an existing mods. I'm not looking to put any new business processes in or grab new feature functionality. I'm just going from one version to the next. There is a functional upgrade. That functional upgrade is kind of a hybrid. It's moving the modifications and customizations forward, but looking at some of the new feature functionality and maybe cherry picking some of those customizations that you can retire and use the upgraded features within the new software. Some of the pros to that are improved solutions are introduced throughout the upgrade. Some cons, new modules, new processes, that increases your testing, your training time, a little bit of organizational change management as well. And then the third type of migration or upgrade is that transformational. I'm going to try to take out all of the customizations and modifications I have. I'm going to use vanilla JD Edwards processes, maybe implement new modules with JD Edwards that wasn't available in my previous software. Some of the pros to that are certainly it can drive business change. You can utilize the upgrade as a catalyst moving forward and moving into those hard areas of organizational change management. Some of the cons, it can extend the upgrade project scope and budget, as well as introduce new resources that are required of part of the upgrade. Some critical success factors in any technology project is having good, solid executive sponsorship, not just sponsors that will attend the steering committee meeting, but those sponsors that are available to the team throughout the process to get through any stumbling blocks or any big decisions that need to be made. Another success factor is data conversions in an upgrade, making sure that you have a very repeatable process, a process that ensures data integrity from point A to point B, make sure that the data is aggregated at the end and that you have verifications or validations of that. The retrofit, the technical end of upgrading, there's a lot of area there where things can be missed. Things can be retrofitted that really don't need to be. So you need to make sure that you have good controls on what objects and what we call RICE list, reports, interface, conversions, and enhancements. What is on that RICE list is actually what you need, because there's some sunk cost in doing retrofits that you don't actually need. From a testing standpoint, absolutely, this is a full regression test and a migration activity. You need to make sure that you have the appropriate test scripts, making sure that those test scripts are equivalent to the business processes, making sure that you have all of your integrations in place and understood what they are, how they connect from not only a database or a connection side, but how they interact with the new JD Edwards system that you're putting in. And then last but not least is certainly scope creep. I've seen a lot of migration upgrade projects that we start out with a technical only upgrade, and it very quickly migrates into that functional and sometimes even transformational. We've just got to level set with ourselves up front in the planning steps and the assessment steps of an upgrade to make sure that we have the right scope. And talking about those steps, this is a pictorial view of CAT's C&A Technologies upgrade methodology. You'll see I was just talking about that planning and analysis and assessment portion of the methodology. Very key to start to understand that as quickly as possible. That way, when you get to that build and deploy phase, there are no scope creep. There are no second guessing what the project actually is. And I'm just going to give you a typical look at what a project scope could look like. You're going to upgrade, let's say, EnterpriseOne to the latest tools release. You're going to retrofit and incorporate those customized objects deemed to be in the project scope, that analysis that you do with the custom modified objects. You're going to test those retrofitted objects, and you're really going to test those in a number of ways. I'll talk about our testing methodology and approach. But one of the things that you have to do is, from a development standpoint, you cannot rely on developers to be able to understand the business processes. That's not their sweet spot. They can unit test those, make sure that the event rules valid, make sure that the code is solid, but they're not going to be able to do complex functional activities. So you've got to have a testing approach. You got to be able to train the end users on the new feature functionality pertinent to any of the current implemented as any new feature functionality. And also, you're coming from a world environment, different look and feel, different way to navigate through the system, and that has got to be your regiment for testing. Another key to success, another cornerstone of any project, a good solid communication strategy and project management. We have a pretty templated view of a communication strategy. That way it's repeatable and the same. Project status on a weekly basis. We describe the overall health of the project, any potential issues or delays. Require the project team, the project sponsors to attend those. We have a project status meeting. That is where we will actually use the project status as our deliverable. And we'll go through accomplishments, next steps, and so on and so forth, is project team members. And then our steering committees, we typically do the basis. The goal of that is share progress of the project, look at any potential risks, make any mitigations of those risks that come, as well as understand we're looking for those steering committee members to make those hard decisions from a project standpoint. This is just a view of our project status report, kind of the way that we go about this reporting. Is we have a red yellow status summary with things such as target dates, cost, technical issues. We walk through any key issues, any key risks, the accomplishments, and then what we're trying to do next week, as well as from a financial standpoint, financial health. I talked earlier about using a RICE list, report to interface conversions and enhancements, for that retro activities. It's very important to have that comprehensive list with different steps along the process. Who's going to evaluation, who's going to be the developer, when is it going to start, when did it actually complete, what the status is of those. From a testing, a testing approach, C&A Technology is a very formal technology. We like a more iterative process where we have SFT, standard functional test, an integrated system test, as well as a user acceptance test. And what I mean by iterative is during that SFT, The C&A Technology resources, we're going to be in the driver's seat. A lot of the testing resources that we have seen on projects don't have a lot of experience doing testing. Maybe you haven't done an upgrade in a number of years. Need to kick the rust off a little bit. So we're going to be in the driver's seat. You guys would be in the passenger seat. Then in our integrated system test, we're going to roll a little bit. We're going to put you in the driver's seat. We're going to be in the passenger seat and help guide you through that process. For the ultimate test, which is our user acceptance test, we want to take a backseat role, have the end user, the resource on your team that does this on a day-to-day basis in that driver's seat, just simply to make sure that they can do an 8 hours worth of work in an 8-hour day, do that day in the life testing process inside of UAT. And that's a very iterative way to go about doing that. Now, there are a couple test cycles, and each of those test cycles in a migration project really should have a very distinct purpose. The standard functional test is, hey, once we get the EnterpriseOne software loaded, we're going to do very quick templatized type of testing to make sure that the software is functional, that there's no hiccups from a CNC or a systems administration standpoint. We're going to do that before we start any of the retrofits. One of the reasons that we do that at CAT is, hey, I never want, I don't want to play that game with my developers. Oh, it's Oracle code. No, it's the customization. If I do that test before, then I can ensure that the Oracle code is working properly and I haven't configured it incorrectly. After that's done, we go and do a unit test that's by the developers. And as I said earlier, you can't expect that developer to understand how to do that complex advanced pricing process or entering a sales order from an order to cash standpoint all the way through. The functional resources that do that. So we have a separate purpose in our integrated system test. That test is to ensure that all related rights on all third-party applications, all integrations, those are all done and complete before we start that integrated system test. We put those into test cases and we organize those by business process flow. That's that diddle or day in life type of testing. We typically do the integrated system test on the production infrastructure, not the production environment, but we want to be working on the same servers. And then our user acceptance test, that's that last check to verify before we go live. We want to make sure any changes that have happened in the integrated system test are now reflected in the user acceptance test. So, and any testing process that you do is very important to the diagram that I'm showing now is a diagram for the actual testing process. How many tests have I authored? How many have I executed? When would I be complete? What's my remaining numbers? We use a burn down type of graphic to support that as we start with 500. As we're going through, we want to knock that down or burn that down to 0. It's very important that this type of measurement, you're able to display the progress, highlight the gaps that in the process being made. Maybe there's a couple team members in a given business unit or business line that just can't seem to get that testing done for competing priorities or whatever that happens to be. And we want to make sure that we can manage that accountability of those team resources. And then last but not least, it's got to be understood by the team. They need to be able to use that as a guide. Another type of measurement is from the issues resolution, those testing defects that come out in any test cycle. You're not really testing appropriately if you're not coming up with any test defects. From that standpoint, defect resolution's got to be it's got to be a process, and it's got to be quick to enter those issues. We don't want to take time away from testing. That's the most expensive part of any migrating time that has to happen. And then all it's got to be manageable, right? We want to look at things by the highest priority, what areas, what modules. As you can see from this example, the sales area had a lot of issues compared to the others. We wanted to make sure that we get those people some help so that they can process through. And then we also want to look at it by the assigned to. Are these guys knocking out the issues as quickly as they can? Just a project, just a sample timeline. Some of the things that that we typically go through at C&A Technology are things like a startup checklist. Do we have everything in place to be able to start? Are the exercises around planning and discovery, the design, the technical, functional, and development side of it, the testing and training and deployment. This is just a sample of that. I'm going to change gears just a little bit and talk about some of those things from a post-implementation standpoint, right? We've migrated you from World to EnterpriseOne. The project has been a success. We now have to do some sustaining support, and C&A Technology offers some of that in the form of our application managed services. And in those areas, we really offer a true turnkey solution. You'll see some managed services outfits. They'll do the technical, the CNC, the system administration. They may not do JD Edwards application support, or they may not be able to do the JD Edwards development. In our organization, because we've got a full-blown professional services group and a dedicated managed services group, those resources don't ever cross that line. They are dedicated to one practice or the other. And we're able to provide all of those type of services. Some things included in that are routine tasks from a CNC standpoint, doing the patching, the package builds, the technical purges, and the day-to-day maintenance that happens. Those are all what we call routine tasks that they don't require any lead time. The things that require a ticket to be produced, we use Jira Service Desk as our help desk provider. And those are things, I need a new ESU applied. I've got to do some maintenance on some security, or I got to do a package build, or I've got to set up new jobs in the scheduler. Those are things enter in the ticket. Those processes will then take place within that our allotted service level agreements. From that application managed services, we have some roles and responsibilities. Like I said, our guys don't mix and match. They don't go across. We assign a quality assurance director that sits over top that we look at every week to ensure that we've got proper quality assurance. We have a client engagement manager that's dedicated to you. I only allow 3 clients per client manager. I just think it's too much to ask those individuals to jump back and forth. We have an EDI managed services, so we can provide mapping and translation as part of that service. We also provide the JD Edwards support and the CNC support as well. One of the things that we have found that has really given us an advantage is some of the differentiators that we have, the ability to stabilize. We have product offerings around health checks and recovery or remediation type of projects. We certainly have the ability to implement and upgrade, but that other differentiator for us is that ability to sustain in the form of AMS or application managed services, as well as our EDI managed services as well. One of the things that we have found from our clients is there's such an advantage to having a single full service vendor. Some key points here is, number one, that you'll be able to streamline that operations with a single vendor. We don't have to call somebody else to wait to that answer. because of those resources are all in-house in one spot, which provides a lot better continuity and that coordinated team approach, which in turn reduces the time for any resolution, right? If I'll use an example, if you're using EDI, there's that blurry line between, is it an EDI problem? Is it a JD Edwards problem? Well, these are all the same guys that are used to working in that managed services environment, so that resolution time is greatly reduced. We do our managed services on a monthly bucket of hours. We don't do long-term contracts, so you're never going to run out of enough time on that monthly basis. And because we do a lot of EDI, the process of understanding how to manage EDI services lends itself very heavily to understanding the overall order to cash process and procure to pay process. And that fourth bullet there eliminates the gray lines. That's kind of the he said, she said, no, it's your fault, not my fault type of scenario. And by having that single source vendor, you'll be able to eliminate that. So I hope that helped you on your path from a migration of World to EnterpriseOne. If there's any questions, please leave those in the comments. You can also go back to our virtual booth from the expo and get and join our live chat and our live stream. So thank you, appreciate it. And if you have any questions, let us know.